Directors, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. Today is Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. It's now 9:30 a.m. We are here in the boardroom as well as available for viewing on TV6, Zoom, and Granicus. I'd like to request that those in the room please silence their phones if they haven't already. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I see that we have a quorum. And we will start today's meeting with our Pledge of Allegiance, led by Director Jim Cook. Jim?
I'll stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Jim. It's now time to approve today's agenda. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda? Ira moves, Reza seconds. Thank you. Any suggested changes to today's agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll consider the agenda approved by consent. Moving on to agenda item 4, we're now looking to approve the meeting minutes for 3 different meetings. Let's try to address these collectively. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the 3 meetings outlined in our agenda packet? David, thank you. And Ira, seconds. All right. Does anybody have any suggested changes or corrections to any of the 3 minutes in the packet? Okay, seeing none, we'll consider those approved by consent as well. Thanks. Moving on to agenda item 5, which is our chair report. Today I'm just sharing a reminder that there are going to be 3 open positions available to be filled in the upcoming annual 3rd board elections. Those interested in potentially filling in these positions need to submit their applications by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, July 3rd, in order to be considered. I'm hoping that more than 3 members will consider volunteering and apply. If 4 or more qualified members submit applications, then there will be an election, and the members of 3rd will be responsible for picking the board directors. If 3 or fewer applicants apply, then those members will automatically become 3rd board directors with no vote, and increasing the likelihood potentially of some directors that don't best represent the expectations of our members. And just a reminder why you might want to become a 3rd board director if you feel your monthly assessments are too high, and most likely they will be going up next year. Please remember it's the 3rd board that makes the decisions about what our monthly assessment will be. If you feel that there are services that you would like to get and you're not getting, or services you're getting that you don't think members need, it's also the 3rd board directors who determine what services are provided for our mutual. And if you want to protect your property values, you can rely on someone else to do it, or you can join a 3rd board and have better control over community rules and maintenance, which can affect the value of your property. So once again, requesting members to consider joining the 3rd board. If you're out there and interested in volunteering to help determine and oversee the services and costs for our community, I hope you'll submit an application by the end of Wednesday, June 3rd, to participate in the upcoming election. For those of you interested, please speak with the receptionist in the community center to pick up an application. And that completes my remarks for today. As always, thanks for listening, and thanks for your support.
You said June 3rd instead of July 3rd.
I said June 3rd instead of July 3rd. All right, so you have till Wednesday, July 3rd. Thank you, Jim, for that correction. Can't even read my own notes. All right, we'll now move on to agenda item 6, which is our open forum. At this time, members may address the board of directors regarding items within the jurisdiction of this board of directors and not on the agenda. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted for the open forum to 30 minutes. Each member is asked to speak for no more than 3 minutes. A member may speak only once during the forum, and speakers may not give their time to other people. And members not in the boardroom can also share their comments by joining this meeting via Zoom or by emailing your comments to meeting@vmsinc.org to have your message read during this open forum, should time permit. And Michaela, are there any requests for members to speak this morning during the open forum?
Yes, we have 3 in-person speakers, and then we have 1 who emailed in that I'll read after. But the first speaker will be Jim Hopkins.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Jim Hopkins, 966N. The secretive vote initiated by the third board leadership to recall without cause represents the disturbing misuse, abuse, and weaponization of this rule to force compliance where there is disagreement and obedience where there should be discussion. It is cynical and destructive to this community to use recall in this way. Third board leadership has increasingly dealt in secret and showed little interest in working with GRF in a collaborative way. Third leadership at GRF meetings and at committees appears to cast judgment and critique as opposed to solutions, competition as opposed to collaboration, and offer no opinion on complex issues. Now there appears to be another concerted effort to gut GRF's experience and effective leadership. The current recall vote is the third attempt in 9 months to recall the president and a key member of the GRF board. The first two attempts to recall me and President Bunny Carpenter failed because of the Open Meeting Act violations. The current vote to recall was camouflaged in an open meeting announced to select 2 third board representatives to the VMS board. The Golden Rain Foundation Trust created a durable structure to govern and manage this community. Per the trust, the GRF board is responsible to provide and manage regular amenities and services to the mutuals and uses the VMS company, a separate community-owned membership corporation, to provide this responsibility. The mutuals determine the service level they need and want. There is not a hierarchy relationship with GRF and the mutual boards, but there is a collaborative system by which the mutuals fully participate in GRF decisions and VMS service delivery via their mutual membership in over 16 GRF committees, as well as their own mutual committees. For certain major decisions, the corporate members representing the residents meet to review and decide to decide these issues. GRF has no vote in these meetings, rightfully so. However, the corporate member meetings are very poorly attended by residents. Thus, these decisions often become subject to mutual board politics and preference, not data-driven decisions. For the space planning decision, GRF has purposely involved direct resident feedback at the committee level and will continue this meaningful resident involvement throughout this and all future decision processes of this type, up to and including corporate member meetings. Self-serving and inappropriate recalls are destructive to the governance of this community and have no place in our governing process as a way to get your way. The process is in real jeopardy, folks. But this can only happen when residents allow it with apathy. Wake up, get involved, it's your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Next speaker is Chris Collins.
Good morning.
Good morning. Chris Collins, 3306Q. I'm here with an update on the work of the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village on behalf of village residents experiencing temporary financial crisis. Together, the Foundation and village clubs can make a difference. The Foundation of Laguna Woods Village welcomes the opportunity to work with village clubs to engage residents in good neighbor activities that will strengthen our sense of a shared community. We can make our great neighborhood even greater. Submit a proposal, join the foundation, and make a difference in our village. By sponsoring a new activity that reflects and reinforces the spirit of Good Neighbor Day, village clubs can make a difference in strengthening our sense of community, which became somewhat frayed during the pandemic. Foundation funds will help support such club activities that bring residents, neighbors together in a positive way. The extensive network of village clubs can play a critical role in this effort by hosting new activities in honor of National Good Neighbor Day, which is September 28th, 2024. Neighbors can be any village residents, not just someone who lives near you, but activities must be undertaken during the month of September 2024. Consider how your club can reach out to engage less connected individuals who may benefit from more social interaction. Clubs are invited to consider get to know your neighbor social events, maybe charity drives, neighbor food exchanges, lunches, or dinners provided by neighbors, a buddy conversation bench, or regular buddy walks, to just name a few. The recent Community Bridge Builders One Song, 300 Voices event, which was in March, is a very good example of a community-wide good neighbor event. The short application for participating in this effort is to be found at tinyurl.com/LWVN neighbor. Using funds from a special bequest to encourage participation, the foundation anticipates that 5 village clubs will be rewarded up to $500 each. This outlay of funds can reap great rewards for village residents. So make your club the star of this effort. Only village clubs that are approved by the Recreation Department may apply. The submission deadline is June 28th, 2024, which is coming up. Applications can be submitted to the foundation of lagunawoodsvillage.com. And for any questions about your mini proposal, contact the foundation at thefoundation@comline.com. And we look forward to your participating and your great ideas. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Robert Muchnick.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning. First, I want to thank everybody for their service. I know how difficult it can be to be a board member, especially for Third Mutual. I have 2 issues that I'd like to address. The first is the property insurance for Third. Recently, the president of Third sent an email to all residents announcing that we have purchased $10 million more in insurance for a decrease in our premium. The email indicated that we partnered with United. The information in the email does not give a complete picture, though. United is sharing the first $225 million, and Third purchased $50 million on top of it by itself. What this means is that if there is a fire that takes place in both Third and United at the same time, Third would only have potentially a maximum of $162.5 million of insurance. This is actually less coverage than we had last year. Now, I'm sure the president will tell you that the PML, the probable maximum loss for any one incident, is around $140-50 million, so we are most likely covered. This is true. However, the board needs to be more transparent and informative with regards to the action it takes so that residents understand what the actual coverage is and what they need to do to protect themselves above and beyond that. This leads me to the second issue, the recall by Third of 2 members of GRF. At the Friday, May 31st meeting of the Third Board, which was called primarily to consider a vote on candidates for VMS, last on the agenda was item 14, entertain a motion to request a meeting of GRF corporate members, which occupied only the last 4 minutes of the meeting, of which most of the time was spent reading the resolution. Residents of Third had no prior knowledge that this action was going to take place. While the motion indicates no cause is required, the residents of Third deserve to know the reasons behind the recall. What are the reasons for the recall? There has been no transparency on this issue. The board is acting in a clandestine manner. They clearly must have discussed this in a closed meeting, since there was no discussion and the board voted unanimously for the recall. What happened to open discussion on these issues? Where is the advance notice? Where is transparency? Without explanation of cause to remove 2 members of GRF, I, as an individual resident of Third, stand firmly against this action by the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Marjorie Eckhart.
Hello, this is my first time here. I'm a owner of 2338 Unit C, and my mom owned it first. It's been in the family for 20 years, but we have a continual problem that the drain backs up and floods over the kitchen sink into the residence, and it does damage when it does it, and it's black. And my tenant isn't happy with that. So I've asked if they could just check it every 6 months to see if there's any clogs, because there's 4 units attached, and the drain goes down under my unit, right underneath my sink. And I know you can't redo the plumbing, but is it possible that somebody could come out every 6 months and make sure that there's no clogs in the drain? They told me, I called other places, the services, and they said, no, I had to come and ask you if that could be done. So I'm asking you, can that be done? I guess you get back with me later?
We will.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Eckhart.
Thank you. And then I'll read an email that was sent in by Peggy Moore. And they stated, "My name is Peggy Moore, and I am sending this message to support Jim Hopkins in his existing position. The recall that was suggested by the third president does not have any foundation. I've worked with Jim on the audit committee for a number of years. I know how deeply Jim cared about every resident in this community. I also support his decisions because I know they're well-founded and well-researched. Possibly our third board president should take the time to listen and, yes, learn from Jim and set aside his agenda. Thank you." And that is all for open forum.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody, for their comments. Appreciate it. Any responses to any of the comments anybody wants to make? Okay. Ms. Eckhart, we will get back to you. Let me look into it, work with staff to see what the issues are, and see if we can come up with a solution for you. Regarding the recall, that is a request to have a meeting to discuss the situation. We will submit the request to, sorry, Ms. Eckhart?
Can I say one more thing? It's been a repeated problem for 20
That's what it
years.
sounded like.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, understood. Current recall, we're going to request a meeting to have the discussion, and we will share our comments at that time, assuming the meeting happens. Any other comments or responses? All right. Thank you. I'm going to move on to agenda item 8, which is CEO report. Siobhan, good morning.
Thank you. Thank you, President Laws, honorable members of the board. This morning I wanted to start off with the budget schedule, just as a reminder to residents. Third Mutual will be reviewing version 2 of the budget on Monday, July 15th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom, and then version 3 of the budget on Monday, August 19th at 9:30 here in the boardroom, with budget adoption slated for the September open board meeting on September 17th. Next, I wanted to touch on the Clubhouse 1 beautification program. It's started on March 4th and remains on schedule for completion in late August. Key milestones completed to date include relocating the user groups and activities, demolition, establishing the temporary bus service hub next door by the library, exterior and interior painting, flooring replacement, and drywall patching. Other ongoing tasks are proceeded as planned, including window replacement, electrical work, ballroom fireplace renovations, and bathroom upgrades. Other work not part of the original beautification project, but that will be completed during the closure, include pool replastering, new pool chemical distribution system, parking lot rehabilitation, and beam replacement in the shuffleboard and archery rooms. Here are some photos that we wanted to share of the progress. On the left side of the screen is the multi-purpose room as it currently stands. And on the right side is the new billiards room, previously the art room, and you can see the new window installation there. The next slide shows the restroom tile installation, and then the pool locker room, both post-demolition and the start of the build back of the new pool locker rooms. And then here is a conference room post-demolition and as the conference room is being rebuilt. So we're excited that this project remains on schedule. I also want to share an important resident services enhancement. Automated emails are now being sent for common area requests. These include things such as laundry room repairs, streetlights, rodents, shrubs, and so forth. Residents will now receive timely updates about the status of these requests, keeping them informed when new common area tickets are created, scheduled, and completed. As a reminder, automated messages are only sent if a resident has an email address on file. Residents can also view common area tickets now via the resident portal. This provides a transparent, convenient way to stay updated on the progress of common area tickets submitted by residents for any location in the village. Why this update matters: the system previously focused only on requests submitted for one's manor. This new functionality allows residents to monitor resolution of these issues with the same efficiency as tickets associated with manors. These enhancements are more efficient and responsive to the needs of our residents, further heightening our residents' customer service experiences. Resident services and our communications team have also collaborated to provide a comprehensive information pamphlet that shows residents all of these self-service options available to them in the village, detailing the resident portal, dwelling live, contacts, and more. It is available in resident services, at the concierge desk, and in clubhouses. This initiative aligns with the VMS strategic plan to enhance resident services and improve overall satisfaction with the community. I'd also like to provide an update on the new village website. This has been a long-term goal to get the website redone. The design phase, a major project milestone, is now complete. This phase identified key functionalities, design elements for residents, board members, vendors, realtors, and staff, and created design wireframes that align with brand guidelines, vision, and resident expectations. Currently in progress is the development phase that focuses on document handling, the search feature, and single sign-on integration for our residents. I want to mention that we've collaborated with residents for user testing, enhanced resident engagement, and operational transparency. So my thanks to the residents who've been involved in this project. The project completion date is estimated to be late August or early September. The Recreation Department wants to notify users that there will be a full Gate 12 facility closure on Monday, August 12th. This will allow for a one-day slurry coat of the parking lots and striping of those parking lots. On this day, all activities will be closed, including golf, Restaurant 19, pickleball, lawn bowling, pool 2, and clubhouse 2. Security Services is planning an Earthquake Hero Disaster Preparedness event. This is going to be scheduled likely 1 month prior to the Great Shakeout, which is on Thursday, October 17th. This will provide residents with access to vendors to help educate and supply residents with their earthquake preparedness supplies. It will provide an earthquake simulator experience. Orange County Sheriff and fire authorities will host booths to discuss their disaster strategies. A Northridge earthquake video will illustrate how neighbors help neighbors during rescue operations, shepherding them to safer shelter to relieve local first responders who were overwhelmed during that quake. So we look forward to giving you the firm date on this event, but look forward to having the event in September. I'm also pleased to announce a customer service enhancement that allows staff now to monitor SCE, that is SCE, lighting repairs within the village. VMS has successfully gained access to SCE's ticket system, which allows for efficient work progress monitoring by staff, identifying work that's taking longer than normal to complete, and helps ensure faster service to our community. On the screen before you, for informational purposes, are the different ownership of the lights within Third Mutual. Street lights are owned by Third Mutual. Repairs are handled by a contractor, Unix. But please note that Third owns the streetlight poles and the light fixtures, while SCE owns the electrical equipment from pole to transformer. Walkway lights, the low-level lights, are owned by Third and maintained by VMS staff. Walkway lights that are on poles are owned by SCE, and SCE maintains these lights. Exterior lights on buildings and carports and so forth are owned by Third and maintained by VMS staff. Since there is a hybrid of responsibility for the lighting issues, please contact resident services to create internal service orders, regardless of who owns and maintains the lighting. You can do this by calling resident services, emailing resident services, and please provide the location and pole number if applicable for repairs. On May 22nd, the VMS board and staff met to update its strategic plan, and I wanted to provide a brief overview this morning. VMS's mission statement is to ensure that Laguna Woods Village residents receive unparalleled opportunities to enjoy the utmost in active living. VMS's mission statement is to be the premier private community in the West for active 55-plus adults. In this session, we set 3-year goals for 2024 to 2027. These goals, not in priority order, include enhancing communication among staff, boards, and residents, providing exceptional customer service, improving operational efficiency and effectiveness, proactively working with boards to maintain financial stability and longevity, and attracting, developing, and retaining high-quality staff. Beneath each of these goals, there are 6-month action items that will strive to make the goals a reality. Some of these steps that will be covered under enhanced communication includes providing the most effective tools to ensure timely responsiveness, effectively communicating our achievements, and promoting communication vehicles to increase use by residents. Under provide exceptional service, the VMS board and staff will measure success, use technology to enhance service delivery, increase accountability, and ensure clear expectations. In terms of proactively working with boards to maintain financial stability and longevity, we aim to keep costs down, set short and long-term targets, and implement technological solutions. With respect to improving operational efficiency and effectiveness, we are working to streamline workflow processes and using the most cost-effective resources available. And lastly, to attract, develop, and retain high-quality staff, we are striving to provide competitive pay and benefits, maintaining a respectful environment, exchanging ideas collaboratively, and increasing ongoing recruitment efforts. And that is my presentation this morning. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Siobhan. Appreciate that. Any board members have any questions for Siobhan? I just had, go ahead, Moon. Sorry, missed your hand.
Yeah, I don't know it's a proper questions at this point to you or to anybody here. We pay a lot of property tax to OC, and this community has many facilities like a road, sewer system, or plumbing, the water system, all that, which we are community, so we are not getting any help, financial help from the OC or state or even city of Laguna Woods. So it seems to me it's a little bit unfair. We are paying full price. We don't get anything return. Is there something we can work on it?
Feel free, Mr. Hopkins. Director Hopkins, I should say.
Have you heard of the CIA group? It's a national group, and we've got our local chapter. They are actually working to get some tax abatements and those types of things as a result of communities like this. Now, it's a lobbying effort. It's not anything that one person can do or one organization can do, but it's a lobbying effort, and it's ongoing. And one of, I think, our local attorneys, I think it's Jeff Beaumont, is very active in that process. So there is recognition of that problem, and he's trying to get a solution.
Great.
So if you get the flyers from CAI, take a look at them on occasion, and you'll see some activity on that.
Okay, thanks for that update, Jim. Yes, Moon?
Thank you, Jim. I think we do need greater leadership at some point throughout the whole community. It's GRF, United, or Third Mutual. We need to work on it. There's a lot of things we can I think we can get it, or we are entitled to, we are not getting it.
Okay, thanks, Moon. Okay. And Siobhan, I was just going to ask a question. You talked on slides 9 through 11 about residents being able to view common area tickets. And I just want to confirm, is that all common area tickets?
Any common area ticket that a resident submits and they have an email on file, yes, and this went into effect approximately 10 days ago.
Okay. So if I am walking around the village and I see, say, a split rail fence down and I create a ticket, I'm now able to, even though it's not near my manor, I'm able to view the status of that ticket. Till
That is correct, provided your email address is on file, and I know it
Okay,
is.
okay, okay. But no one else could see the status of that one
That's
ticket? Just me.
correct.
Yeah, okay, just the person that creates it. Great, thanks for that clarification, appreciate it. Any other comments and questions for Siobhan? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 9, which is our consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board via a single motion. Today, per the consent calendar, the board is being asked to ratify the preliminary financials for the month of April 2024, approve 4 liens recommended by the Finance Committee, 1 recommendation from the Landscape Committee, and 3 variance requests recommended by the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee, or ACSC. Can I get a motion to approve today's consent calendar? David moves, Moon seconds. Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board?
I need to recuse myself from item 9D1 because that's my unit.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Any other objections to approving the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, we'll consider the consent calendar approved by consent with Jim abstaining from 9A1 or something like that. 9D1. Okay, now we're moving on to agenda item 10, where we'll be discussing and voting on unfinished business. Today we have only one unfinished business item to discuss, and that is agenda item 10A, which is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the revision of standard 47 for bathroom splits. These updates were recommended by the ACSC, and last month this board voted to approve this revised standard forward for 28-day member review and comment. Today we will be voting as to whether or not to accept the revised standard going forward. Chris, before we get going on that, can you read the resolution for us, please?
Yes, Resolution 03-24-XX, Revised Standard 47 Bathroom Splits. Whereas the Third Laguna Hills Mutual recognizes the need to amend standards and create new standards as necessary, and whereas the Mutual recognized the need to revise Standard 47 Bathroom Splits. Now therefore be it resolved, June 18, 2024, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts resolutions and amendments to Standard 47 bathroom splits as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that Resolution 03-18-22 adopted February 20th, 2018 is hereby superseded and canceled, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Can I get a motion to approve the updated standard before we discuss it further? Chris moves, Moon seconds. Thank you both. Any questions, comments from board members regarding this standard? Yes, Reza?
I think the question that I had before also is, if this encroach into the common area, there is no, the note on that what would happen, what they have to do if that encroach into the common area, if the bathroom split take place, like using garage or something.
Okay. Alan, can you step on up and speak to that? Did you hear the question?
I did.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Thank you. The intent of the update is totally contained within the manor itself.
Okay.
So I was just looking real quick to see if it actually says that. But that's certainly the intent of the standard update.
So if that, if the split request comes with the encroaching or using the common area, that's going to be different policy that we have, or how are we going to approach that?
I'm sorry, I was scrambling. The definition, if I don't answer your question, please repeat it. But Section 2.1 defines bathroom split, the creation of an additional bathroom within the interior confines of a manor. So it would not encroach in common area.
No, my question is that if the request for a split include encroaching into the common area, that's covered in separate,
That would go through the variance process.
so that's a separate process?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to know.
Thanks. Okay, any other questions from board members? Okay, Michaela Moon?
Reza, you want to put another motion to modify this resolution, or?
No, I think there are separate resolution for using common area for anything.
Yeah.
And if the request comes in and it's within the dwelling
Yeah.
and is not encroaching common area, this is sufficient.
Yeah.
But if include, for example, taking 3 feet of the garage in order to do that, then that had to go through different process, not through this resolution. I think that's what I'm trying to distinguish between the two.
Okay, great. Okay. Michaela, do we have any member comments on this one? Okay. Okay.
Yes, you know what? I'm so sorry. I was looking at the wrong thing. Yes, we do. We have one.
Okay. I thought we might.
Member Gary Durst said, third board members, I have read the proposed new standard for bathroom splits and offer the following comments. One, proposed 3.2.a and 3.10 seem to be in conflict. The former bans altering or removal of structural or load-bearing walls, while 3.10 implies it can be done if approved by a structural engineer. 3.10 seems to be the better policy. 2, typo only 3.7, last sentence, details to be included with a D at the end with plan submittal. And then that's all for member comments.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Okay. I'm letting Jim take a look at the two.
That's not really a conflict. The second item she represented is only for roof, and that's if they were going to put a skylight in or something. And so we still don't allow structural changes of the walls to do the bathroom splits if they are structural walls rather than partition walls.
Okay. All right. Do we think we need any modifications, or do you think it's clear?
Well, I think it's clear because it specifies roof.
Okay.
And the other thing is, this was only a cleaning up of this because a lot of the things that were in the original bathroom split do not meet current standards. So that's why it was revised.
Okay.
Not because we were really changing anything about where you can put the splits.
Okay. All right. I guess it's time to vote. Are we going to try to vote on our screens today? Yeah. And so now we're voting on whether or not to approve the revised standard 47 for bathroom splits going forward.
Oops, sorry, let me see. I think it just recorded it unanimously.
We're waiting for it to come up for us.
It's under the original for the motion.
Yeah. We're just working through the technology here for a moment, folks. All right, there it looks like we have it.
Brad, are you voting for the item?
Yes.
Thank you.
Michaela? My screen isn't functioning, so.
Okay, thank you.
Is SK voting today?
I vote yes.
Okay, thank you, SK.
Thank you, everyone. So this passed 9 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Andy, Ms. Jules, okay. All right, thank you, board, appreciate it. Now we're moving on to agenda item 11, which is for our new business items, and we have quite a few today. We'll start with agenda item 11A, which is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the revision of Standard 6 for block walls. This updated standard was recommended by the ACSC, and today we will be voting as to whether or not to submit this updated standard forward for 28-day member review and comment. Does anyone from staff have any opening comments for us regarding this?
I can give you a general highlight. It's best found under the discussion section of the staff report. We're looking at updating the standards in order to allow for clarification of where the modifications can take place. We're also addressing the types of materials and the finishes used, and then including maintenance responsibilities. That's a really fast highlight, but I'm here to answer and address questions or concerns.
Okay. All right, why don't we get a motion and before we discuss it further and ask questions, can I get a motion to place this policy on 20-day member review and comment? Jim so moves, David seconds. Thanks. Any questions, comments from board members? All right, I have a few. Section 2.7, can you explain what gate opening means? Is that?
It's simply a gate attached to a block wall. It just clarifies or specifies where that gate can or can't be located. Okay. If it is within the patio area or exclusive use common area, it's allowable, but you cannot, we're recommending you do not install a gate that opens into common area for egress purposes.
Okay. So how about just a hole in the wall? So let's say I have a wall on 2 sides and there's a 3-foot opening that opens out into the common area lawn behind a manor. Is that okay because there's no gate there, or are you, is an opening, whether or not a gate is there, considered a gate opening?
Fair question. It's more to do with the gate opening itself and the swing of the gate encroaching into a common area. So if there's just an open space between the walls, there is no restriction on the walls themselves.
Okay. But if someone had a gate and the gate could not open out but could only open in, you're saying that's okay, correct?
That would be allowed.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that.
Wait, for clarification, the gate can only open in. It
Right.
cannot open out into the common area.
Understood.
Correct.
Right. That's what I thought I was asking. I thought he was, so if I
I
said
thought
that wrong,
that-
I apologize.
I thought that when there is a gate and you step into the common area, you have to have a 3 feet behind that because you cannot step from your gate into the common area. Is still part of that?
That's not a requirement for a gate. That is a requirement for a door opening on the
What's the
exterior
difference?
of a manor.
What's the difference? I mean, you're opening. I mean, either is a door or is a gate. So what's the difference? I mean, I have a problem with, you're opening to the common area. Either we allow it or we don't allow it. So if there's gate that, you latch it, or is the door that you close it, what's the difference?
The difference is code requires that for a doorway, not for a gate. A gate is like a patio gate type thing, and the gate on the patio has to open to the interior, and you're stepping out of there onto whatever, whether it's grass, a sidewalk, whatever, but it isn't required to have a 3-foot by 3-foot landing.
Does that answer your question? I mean, is it an answer that, you know?
Okay, got it. All right. So 2.8 on the section mentions that block walls can be built on or bordering the exclusive use common area or patio slab extension. To me, if it's bordering, that means it would be on common area, I think, and in my mind. So can you explain that?
It is, well, it's not encroaching onto mutually, or not encroaching, excuse me, onto common area, but up to common area. So it deals with existing exclusive use common area where you can or cannot.
Okay, so sorry. So I'm just looking the way I read bordering the exclusive use common area. So if I go up to the edge of the exclusive use common area and then build something on the edge of that, or it seems to me that that would be in common area. So that's where my mind is going. So we don't need to take any more time with that. Section 4.0, planter walls. Are these separate from the walls that have been discussed in section 2?
Only in terms of height description and where those walls can be located.
Okay. So can planter walls be in common area?
No.
Okay. So I can't build a planter wall around, say, a planter area that was yellow staked by landscaping and I've got plants in. And when I say I'm just kind of saying general me.
Right. No, I understand.
Okay. So I would probably request this be rewritten a little bit to clarify that planter walls are separate from Section 2. Section 2 says, Section 2.4 says no new walls under applications. It doesn't say that it's a patio wall or anything like that. It just says, can't be less than 12 inches. 2.4 says that. And then 4.3 says can't be higher than 12 inches. So if the only wall I can create is 12 inches tall, it's fine. But otherwise, there's a little discrepancy there. And then 5.2 mentions sprinklers within a patio area. And that mentions that it kind of states that any sprinklers within a patio area cannot be connected to the mutual's irrigation system, which tends to imply to me that they would then be connected to the home's system, which would be potable water. And is that something that we want to support?
Fair question.
Okay.
That's the way the current standard reads.
Okay.
We can certainly look at amending that.
Okay. All right. So we'll leave that to the ACSC. All right. Any other questions, comments? Those were mine. Okay. All right. Do we have any member comments on this? Okay, great. So just to move things along, we're time to vote, I guess. We're going to vote on whether or not to submit this updated standard forward for 28 member review and comment. Sorry, I'm waiting for Moon here. See, you can ask us all, Moon.
So this is a common area, but it's that when they close it, it's exclusive. So they are responsible for maintaining it. That's what you're talking about, right?
So do you have questions, Moon?
Had questions about patios and exclusive use area.
Okay.
You know, that's all.
Okay.
Which didn't apply so much to
Okay.
this.
Okay, got it. Okay.
I need a learning curve.
Okay. Feel free to learn with all of us, because maybe if you have a question, there's others, even members that are listening that might have the same question. So we can get a common answer. That'd be great. So again, we're going to move this.
We'll find out.
Oh, we are voting now?
We are voting out whether or not to put this forward for 28-day member review and comment period.
SK and Brad, if you could provide your vote for this item.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now it is. Okay.
Okay, looks like we have 7 yeses, 2 noes, 0 abstentions. Now, so this passes to put onto 20-day member review and comment. I'd ask that the ACSC look at this one more time before next meeting and tweak it based upon some of the questions and comments. Okay, moving on to agenda item 11B, it's for the board to entertain a motion to approve the revision of standard 41 for solar panels on one-story buildings. This updated standard was also recommended by the ACSC, and today we will also be voting as to whether or not to submit this forward for 28-day member review and comment. Does anyone from staff have any opening questions for us or opening comments? And if not, that's fine. Okay. We can just wait for questions to come up. All right. Can I get a motion to place this updated standard on 28-day member review and comment? Jim so moves. Dave seconds. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Ira?
I'd like to send this to legal before we put it on for 28 days, so we don't have the same issue with this standard as the previous.
Okay, let's just ask a question. Has this been forwarded to legal? Has staff forwarded this to legal? Okay, all right. Okay. I would make the same comment, so I will be voting no on this at this time, just because there's been a lot of changes with solar over the past few years, and just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. But any other questions, comments? Okay. Any member comments, questions? Okay, so I guess we're now voting on to whether the motion was put this on 28-day member review and comment. Again, I'm going to vote no, and we'll see how it proceeds.
SK and Brad, if you could provide your vote.
I'll abstain.
Brad votes yes.
Okay, SK, could you provide your vote one more time?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, thank you.
So 432. Okay. All right, so this passed. 4 yeses, 3 noes, 2 abstentions. All right, so we'll go on 20-day member review and comment. In the meantime, I'll send it to our legal team to take a look at, see if they can comment before our next meeting. Agenda item 11C is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the revision of standard 41A for solar panels for 2-story buildings. This updated standard was recommended by the ACSC, and today we'll be voting as to whether or not to submit it forward for 28-day member review and comment period. Can I get a motion on this one? Jim, you move to put it on 28-day member review and comment, I'm assuming, all right? Okay. Second, David, all right. Any discussion? I make the same comment myself, so I think Ira and I are...
Yeah, I'd like to send this to legal to make sure that there is some conflicts between this one and the standard 41.
Okay, so between the two, 11C and 11B, okay. Now, if you could share those specific concerns that you have with the ACSC chair over the next few days, that'd be great. Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments on this one? Yes.
I think the whole purpose of putting it at 28 is to get more input before final approval. So I don't know why we don't want to go for 28 days, why we're seeking input because that 28 days give us the opportunity to get input, and based on those, either we can approve it after 28 days or reject it.
Okay.
So that's the way I look at it, because, you know, when there is a concern, you just put it out and get your feedback and then make a final decision. That's my comment.
Yeah, in my experience, our legal team isn't always as quick as being able to provide the input, so.
You can make him as quick as you want to.
But fair enough.
Reggie, we are
You bring
dealing
up
with
a valid point.
lawyers.
Okay.
All right, and Brad, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is the regulations change fairly continuously for solar. You might want to put, you know, just a disclaimer at the bottom, you know, based on current standards and subject to change in the future. But, I mean, it's a non-elected appointed committee that makes a lot of the decisions on what regulations are for solar, and it changes fairly frequently. That's all I would say.
Okay, great, thanks. Makes sense. Okay, any further comments, questions? I'm assuming no member comments. All right, it's time for us to vote. Again, we're voting on whether or not to submit updated standard 41A for solar panels for two-story buildings forward for 28-day member review and comment.
McKellar, I will abstain again.
Okay, SK, you're abstaining, and Brad, what was your vote?
I vote yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so something's amiss. Oh, Andy showed up. Hey, Andy. All right. He snuck in, he voted. Okay? He voted, okay. So this one didn't pass. So it's 4 yeses, 5 noes, 1 abstention. Okay, so I'm sure it'll be worked out with legal. I'll work to get their feedback on both of these before our next meeting.
Yeah, I think my argument wasn't good enough.
All right. So thanks, Board, for that. All right, we're going to move on to Agenda Item 11D, which is for the Board to entertain a motion to approve the 2025 Collection and Lien Enforcement Policy. This updated policy was recommended by the Finance Committee. This policy remains consistent with the 2024 version and required only 2 minor modifications. The first, updating the year from 2024 to 2025, and the second, editing the title section on section number 12, the text 30-day pre-lien notice to simply pre-lien notice. So we just struck 30-day off of that section title. Today we will be voting as to whether or not to submit this updated collection and lien enforcement policy forward for 28-day member review and comment. Can I get a motion to place this policy on 28-day member review and comment before we discuss it further? Ira moves. Chris seconds. Was that Chris? Are you raising your hands? Okay. Thank you. Any questions from any members? Okay. Fairly straightforward in my book. Any member comments? All right. It's time for us to vote. No comments from the board or third board members. Again, we're voting as to whether or not to submit this lien policy forward for 28-day member review and comment period.
Okay, SK, you said you're voting yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Brad votes yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, board. This passed 10 votes yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions. All right, moving along. Thanks. Agenda item 11E is for the board to entertain a motion to approve a passive business policy and application. This updated policy was recommended by the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. This policy has not been updated since 2001 and has now been updated to remove references to Mutual 50, and language that's clarifying the intent of the policy since the last 23 years, and make other housekeeping changes by making the language consistent throughout the policy. So mainly clarification type changes, but nonetheless, today we'll be voting as to whether or not to approve and submit it forward for 20-day member review and comment. Can I get a motion to approve this policy forward for 28-day member review and comment? David, thank you. Second. And Chris, thanks. Any questions, comments from the board? Hopefully everybody read it. Okay, all right. Any member comments? All right, then may as well proceed with the vote. Thanks. Again, we're voting to submit it forward for 28-day member review and comment.
Brad votes yes.
SK, what's your vote?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so this one also passed 10 votes yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions. Thank you, board. Appreciate you having read everything and moving us along. Agenda item 11F is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the rules for board meetings. These updated rules have been recommended by the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. These rules have been updated to include member-requested hearings and the meet and confer or internal dispute resolution or IDR discussions to be included in the executive session portion of this policy. Today, as with the previous new business items, we will be voting as to whether or not to submit these board meeting rules forward for 28-day member review and comment. Can I get a motion to place these updated rules on 28-day member review and comment period before we discuss it further? Chris moves, Reza seconds. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Or is this the one, Chris, where you had some potential changes?
Yes, on page 15 of 30, paragraph A, notification, second paragraph there, the first sentence is not a complete sentence.
Okay.
It starts, if the member submits a written request for member requested hearing with the mutual,
Okay.
then what?
Okay.
There's a period there.
Okay.
The next line, member should be initial cap. And on page 16 of 30, the first full paragraph, it should read, the member who requested the hearing.
Okay.
And then the third line down, the word them should be then, THEN.
Okay.
And when it talks about the number of copies for the board, it should be 11 and not 4.
Okay. Thank you. You'll make sure that the staff gets a copy of your changes?
They
just
have it.
in case they,
Yeah.
thank you,
Yeah.
appreciate that. Okay, okay, so just some minor comments there. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, any member comments for this one? Okay, all right, so I guess we will now vote as to whether to accept these changes forward, the changes as defined by Chris. I think we can make those changes and submit those forward for 28-day member review and comment.
Brad votes yes.
SK vote yes.
Okay, this passed 10 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Thank you, board. Put that forward for members to review and comment upon. Moving on to agenda item 11G. It's for the board to entertain a motion to approve updates to Third's financial qualifications for purchasing a manor in Third. These updated qualifications were recommended by the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee, and today we'll be voting as to whether or not to submit them forward for 28-day member review and comment. I see Jeff's up here, so Jeff, can you share any opening comments for the board and members regarding this?
Yes. Good morning, directors. Third financial qualifications have not been thoroughly reviewed for many years. We have different years for the varying requirements, so I'll break these down for you. If you go to page 4 of 34 of 11G, the first one, net worth requirements, have not been reviewed since 2005. The current requirement amount is $125,000. The inflation rate from 2005 to 2024 is almost 60%. So we calculated the new requirement up to $189,875. The committee unanimously voted to round it up to $200,000. For the annual income requirements, those were last reviewed in 2016, and the current requirement is $45,000. The inflation rate for that one is 30.1%. So the board decided that would come out to $58,545. The committee ruled to round it up to 60,000. For the guarantor and multiple unit owners, these were last reviewed in 2003. The current requirement is $200,000. The inflation rate from '03 to 2024 is 69.7%. So this would put the new requirement to $339,400. The committee agreed to round that up to $340,000. The annual income, it's at the bottom of page 4 and it continues on to page 5. That was last reviewed, most of the recent.
Wait, we're lost.
Yes, sir.
We thought you did annual income already from 45 to 60.
The 40, that's for the net worth, or wait, sorry, annual income requirements up at the beginning, but there's new, for a guarantor and multiple unit owners, there is different net worth and annual income.
Okay.
Sorry for the confusion on that one.
So sorry, just what page we're looking?
We don't see the breakdown. Oh.
On the bottom of page 4, and then it continues on to page 5.
Okay, I thought
You have a guarantor, and then,
Okay, so you did the 340, now you're going to talk about the 182? Is that 100?
yes,
Oh,
correct,
okay,
yes.
got it,
Okay.
Okay, now I see.
Yeah, so on that one, it was last reviewed in 2020. The current requirement is 150,000. Inflation rate is 20.7, so that comes up to 181.50. The committee decided to round that up to 182,000. So the total requirements show on page 5 the new calculations if everything gets approved.
Okay. And just clarifying the purpose of net income requirements and annual income requirements is mainly to help ensure that whoever buys into third is able to continue to pay their monthly assessments.
Exactly.
Because if they don't, we all do,
Yep.
essentially.
Correct.
Okay, let me get a motion before we discuss it further. Can I get a motion to place this on 20-day member review and comment? Jim moves, Ira seconds, thank you. Any questions, comments about these? Reza?
You see that on page 5, the multiple unit net worth is additive
Yes.
as you increase. What about the income? The income stay the same?
No, the income will be increased. So the annual income requirements for multiple unit owners is, that goes up to $340,000.
Yeah, in the middle of page 5 is,
Yes.
is the annual income, and the top of page 5 is
No, the 200,000 that goes to 300,000 at the bottom of page 4 is not the income, is the
It's
asset.
the net worth.
It's the asset.
It's net, yeah, they're at.
Net worth.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
talking about income.
Income. So
Forget about
okay.
that one.
Yeah.
The income that you put at $58,000, if somebody have 3 units, it's still $58,000? Or that gonna go up for the multi-unit?
No, from the 58, it's going to be 60,000.
Middle of page 5.
middle of page 5.
Yeah.
I know, but
You're mixing guarantor with buyer.
Yeah.
no, I'm talking about the buyer. I'm a members and I have 3 units. Now, I know that my asset is 200 for the first, 400 for the second, 600 for the
Yep.
third. It's not the same pot. But my income when I bought the first one is 58,000. Now I bought the second one, my requirement goes up for the income or it stays at the 50? It's only $60,000, only 2,000.
No, it's there, I think you may.
At the bottom of page 5.
So page 5, right?
The 60,000.
60 plus 30, plus 30, plus 30.
Oh, okay, I missed
Yes,
it. Okay,
okay.
yeah, I got it. I got it.
We're good.
No problem, it's a lot of stuff, so. I wanna make
Yeah,
sure-
it's a lot of numbers, confusing.
Yes, it can be. Okay.
Okay, so the annual payment for 3 units is about $120,000.
Move.
Yeah, I just want to clarify for all the residents. Did that include the automatic review or automatic escalation of the purchasing of the qualification price?
Yeah, well, these automatically calculate based on the number of units.
So annually or 5 years, 3 years, is it escalating, automatic review?
No,
or-
we did not set anything for it to automatically escalate.
So we have to review
We have to
each
review
time.
again.
Yeah,
We can
I
come
just
back and
want to
review
make
after
that
5
clear
years.
to everybody understand.
Yeah.
Looked like Brad had a question or comment?
Yeah, I'm just, I understand tying it to inflation, but the reality is, the HOA dues are 10 grand a year. Most folks are, paying cash for units. 60 grand seems like it's a pretty high threshold and maybe a little bit higher than necessary. The other thing you could look at, I don't know what the HOA dues have grown between '03 and 24, probably even more than what you're looking at. But I would also take into consideration, what the actual cost of living is, not just what the inflation has done. And frankly, for someone who's buying their unit for cash, they're pretty much meeting the asset requirement anyway, just in the value of the condo. And the final thing I would say is, we can't wait 20 years for this kind of review. We should also put in a requirement to have it reviewed every 2 years. Those are my comments.
So,
I think that what Brad also saying, that's what I think I was concerned with, that at 3 units, we only, the members can only live in one, rent one, the third one is empty because there is no income with it. So at 120,000 income with 3 units, that's about $40,000 a year. That means third of their income are just going to be the assessment. So is that sufficient? Is that a right, ratio? Financially? I don't know. We trying to protect the HOA from default, right? That's the whole purpose of it. But, because if they could rent all of it, yeah, that's fine. I understand that. But if they cannot, it's just going to be coming out of their direct income, and 30% of the income just go toward the assessment. That's
something that
on top of possibly mortgage or something. That's going to be very
something that a multiple unit owner needs to keep in mind as they're buying. So I think you also made a comment, Brad, regarding how much the assessment's gone up. I think since 2003, our assessment's gone up like 138%, I think I calculated. The list of assessments is on page 7.
Right, but whatever we do for a single unit, it should be multiplied for multiple units, I would think. But my point was, I don't know that it requires 60 grand a year in annual income to live here if your home is paid off and your HOA dues are $10,000 a year. That, to me, personally seems a little bit high. I think you could generally live on less than that, and I think a lot of people do. But if you have more than, if we set it at 60 and you have 2 units, it should be 120 the requirement. If you have 3, it should be 180 as a requirement. And then the other thing is, obviously this isn't retroactive. I would assume it's only for people that are actually moving into the area.
Correct, yeah. And I think the way it's planned would be effective January 1st of 2025, as we voted. Yeah. And Moon has brought up the point of having it reviewed periodically, as did you, Brad, so we'll work with staff to see how we as a board can direct a future board to do something, which is review this policy. We can probably ask staff to raise it in 3 or 5 years or whatever for the board at that time to look at. So we'll work to make that happen. Okay. Good questions, good comments. Thanks. Any others? Okay. Any member comments on this one? Kayla, Jim, did you fill out a form?
Yeah,
okay.
For the next item, I believe.
This is for 10G or this one? Sorry.
No, he filled an item out for 11H.
I'll fill it out.
Okay, you can fill out afterwards. I just wanted to make sure we keep track of you, Jim.
I want to follow the rules. Just a question. what's the purpose of the change? What would that do for the third? Is what problem is it solving? Is this is a very central question. The change in the policy, income, et cetera, what problem is it solving?
It's bringing the income requirements up to date in order to minimize the potential defaults of members not paying their monthly assessments, because as we know, if a member doesn't pay, we all pay. Sometimes we find that we have options to ultimately foreclose, but at some of the prices that we have in our manors these days, if people have a mortgage, we're after the bank. As far as if there's a foreclosure and they're underwater, the bank gets the money and the mutual gets nothing. So we're just trying.
Yeah, and my question was kind of rhetorical, because what's the data that supports it? I'm not disagreeing with it. I just want to understand the data that supports it. For instance, let's just say that the average person defaulting has been here 25 years. Or maybe the average person defaulting has been here only 7 years. Right? And so you've got all of these dynamics associated with this, and that's why I asked the question, is there data that supports doing this, that it's solving a problem? That was my only question, and I'm not saying it isn't, all right? But, there should be something that says this is the need for it. And the other thing has to do with GRF uses the trust facilities fee. These higher qualifications will actually lower the income to the reserve, which is going to have challenges over the years as everything gets older. So it's just something to think about.
Okay, thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. Okay, and Brad has a question or comment?
Yeah, my only other comment, just to go back to that, I don't know that the increase should be based solely on the inflation between 2003 and 2024. I think in my mind, 60 seems high, unless you still have a mortgage. And I don't know how you qualify or differentiate between people who have a mortgage and people who don't have a mortgage. Obviously, if someone has a mortgage, 60 grand probably isn't nearly enough. If someone's paid off their unit and we're only worried about HOA dues, 60 grand seems really high, because I think people could probably live on, $3 grand a month. So 3,800 times 12, whatever that is, or $2 grand a month. That's the problem, is it's hard to set a hard and fast standard, because it is somewhat contingent upon whether someone has a mortgage or not and how much that mortgage is.
Right.
Really.
Right, I agree. And we did chat about that a little bit, but yeah, okay. At the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee before this came up. Okay, thanks. Brad, Moon?
I think Jim asking, question which most of the residents are going to ask or they wonder. But as this is increasing straight, not compound. Let's say 10 years ago and 10 years now, the interest rate or that, this is a straight line, not even compound. I was asking much higher numbers because the compounding interest is much higher. And second one is, so this is more like updating, catching up. Second one is the qualification of a finance. There's many aspects of what kind of neighborhood, what kind of resident we want to have. But this is one aspect of a financial qualification we are looking at, which we can control better than anything else, like personality we cannot control. But so what kind of resident do we want to have? We want to have a resident who cannot pay the HOA, so we have to talk about the lien and all the time. Or, it's a matter of what kind of resident, what kind of my neighbor we want to have. This is one of the aspects of a financial aspect that we can control. Thank you.
Thank you, Moon. Any other questions, comments? And from any other members? Okay, great, thanks. So now it's time to vote. Again, we're voting as to whether or not to submit this qualification forward for 28-day member review and further comment.
I vote yes.
Brad votes no.
Okay. All right, so voting is complete. 9 yeses, 1 no, 0 abstentions. Thank you, Board. And thanks, Brad, for sharing your thoughts, and Jim as well. Moving on to agenda item 11H. It's for the Board to entertain a motion to approve updates to Third's purchasing policy. Matter of fact, I was the one that recommended these changes as a result of being asked to sign a $1 million contract that had not gone out to bid, and for a vendor that the full board had never heard of or approved. When I asked staff about it, they kind of said this was an annual type of contract, and per our current purchasing policy, my understanding is, and their reply was that annual contracts didn't need to follow the same kind of process to be bid and to be approved by the full board. As Steve will tell you, staff will prefer that we don't approve these changes, but instead form a committee or task force led by GRF to come up with a standard purchasing policy that is the same for all mutuals. So if we want to proceed with these changes today, we will make a motion and vote as appropriate. So first, Steve, why don't you say what you'd like to say regarding agenda item 11H?
Thank you. And just for a clarification perspective, clearly staff has no problem with making changes. So we're always looking for improvements, welcome any opportunity to review it. But what we'd like to do is, as you illustrated, we want to do it in collaboration with the other mutuals as well. So what I would recommend is, if we want to turn straight towards the back, if you look at agenda item 11H, page 13 of 14, if I can use a little bit of your time and go through some of the details. I'll pause and give you just a moment to turn to that page. There was a total of 8 suggestions that were included as far as the edits. The first one was eliminate the single source exemption for competitive bidding. This does have a place. So with regards to the policy, again, the recommendation is to eliminate it entirely. We do have some vendors who we use, who staff has worked with. They are a trusted vendor. They've been working in the community for some time. And what we do is we bring it before the CEO, we bring it before the purchasing manager, as well as the department head who is making the recommendation. We fill out a form, we provide a justification, and at the end of the day, the board, I should say 2 members of the board will still sign off on this contract. So despite the fact that there may be a single source exemption not necessarily going out to bid, it is still brought before members of the board to make certain that you are aware. Number 2, changing the source. Let me back up. The elimination of the single source exemption. So from 2021, we just kind of picked 3 years to go back. Across all 3 corporations, it's only been used 24 times. With regards to Third, there's only 3 vendors that it affects, right? So it's seldom used intentionally. Likewise, under the sole source, the recommendation is to get the board's approval in order to make any change or to use this exemption. Staff doesn't necessarily have any objection to bringing it before the board. The only challenge that we may face in this instance would be is if, say, one board chose to use it and then the other 2 boards did not. So, but again, if that's the direction of the board, we don't necessarily see a problem with it. It could cause some delays, but we would work through those. Number 3, requiring a competitive bidding on contracts where the vendor of an expiring contract has agreed to not increase the price if the prior contract was competitively bid in the last 2 years. So twofold. So a lot of our contracts are 3-year contracts. So, and this may just be an opportunity to improve the language in the proposed updates. So, but this would by default, if we left it as is, every contract that expired after 3 years would have to come back and do competitive bidding, because what the recommendation is, if it hasn't been competitively bid in 2 years, well, clearly it was a 3-year contract. So it was 3 years ago the last time it was competitively bid. And the second is we have instances where numerous instances where we have vendors who will hold their pricing year after year. So ultimately, and we have an example that we can share with you maybe in closed session or some other time, that they are making a margin, right? So they don't want to run the risk of losing the business. So they've agreed to maintain their pricing for another 3 years. So 6 years, the same price. They're making their same margin. They were competitively bid at a previous time. If you were to we have an instance where the last time this happened where we wanted to test to see if competitive bidding should be a requirement, it ultimately came back where that same vendor provided a new bid and they justifiably raised their price. They were still the lowest bidder. So as a result of this change, you ultimately had to pay more money for the same service that you could have had you just stayed with the original pricing. We are not opposed to, even without making any changes to the policy, if there is a contract that is coming up and the board makes a decision that, hey, we would like to open this up to other bidders, you have the ability to direct staff to do so without changing this policy. And maybe if it's something that is necessary, maybe you don't know all the contracts that are coming up, we can make that available to you at any time, just to make certain that we're providing as much information as possible. Moving on down to number 4, and again, I'm just making certain that everyone is aware of the benefits and maybe the consequences of approving the policy with the proposed changes. So number 4 is add clarification that an exemption of a blanket purchase order that's used exclusively for supply purchases are only applicable to supply purchases. We can add that wording. It may be unnecessary, but no real objection to it. Number 5, changing the requirements from notifying the board of unbudgeted emergency repairs within 48 hours to notifying the board of all emergency repairs within 48 hours, whether or not budgeted. This is a big one. So right now we have maybe a dozen, I want to say it's probably like 3 or 4 really over the course of the year that we have unbudgeted emergency repairs. But we deal on a daily basis. So, and we're already supplying reports to the board whenever there is a emergency that's unbudgeted. But if we were to do this for all emergency repairs, based on conversations with M&C, they're doing about 50 a day, if not more. So to provide a report to every single emergency repair that comes before you, you're talking, I put in here 3+ staff, it's probably going to be more than that. So this would be, I would highly encourage you to back off on this one here. And maybe it was unintended, the consequence of adding that language in there. And it may not have been, I can understand you want all the information as timely as possible, but to provide a written report every time there's an emergency may be cost prohibitive. So, but ultimately it will be your decision to do so. Number 6, in instances where an anticipated work will require an annual contract amount and a change order is required, a clarification be added that the stated amount will exceed the contract within the time frame of the contract. No problems with making that change. That's absolutely fine. Likewise, for number 7, a clarification to be added for blanket purchase orders. So making certain that the terminology says within a 12-month term, no objection to that. Lastly, number 8, establishing authority limit for VMS department heads creating purchase orders. Right now, the policy states that below $10,000 from purchase order, a manager can approve it. But, over $10,000, it has to require a VMS department head to sign off on that purchase order. Right now, staff has a budget that we work within, so we make certain that we want to not exceed the budget, right? So if we can find savings in one section and we need to make an educated purchase on another area, we go ahead and do so. Again, at the end of the day, we are striving to work within our budget. If it's the board's direction to change the policy to limit that authority to some smaller amount, we will defer to the board. But overall, I'll go back to the beginning and say that whatever change is made, again, we're open to making changes. We always want the policy to be the best that it can be. But again, we want it to be a coordinated effort across all 3 organizations, because what we don't want to happen is needlessly for the board to spend more money than is necessary. So, and I think that potentially is very likely to happen if it's approved as is.
Good. So, thank you, Steve. Appreciate those updates. Any questions, comments? Okay.
Go ahead, Hiram. I'm just thinking about when to do a motion, so.
Okay.
Whether we should, any motion, you have any thoughts on making a motion?
All right, for discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed edits to
Okay.
the purchasing policy as stated here.
Okay, any second to that? Reza seconds, thanks, okay.
Okay, so just as clarification, since you said you wrote this, I think there may be a communication issue, like on number 5, where it was the big response from staff on this one. You asked for a notification, and for me, that would mean a copy of the work order, not a report, as you had stated. So to me, that would be sending an email, adding another recipient to an email, and that's it, on a work order. So I don't see where it would take 3 more people to add another recipient on a work order. If I'm wrong about that, let me know.
Yeah, I don't know that I had an idea of how. It was just, I think the board needs to be aware of emergency repairs, because that means it's something unplanned. I don't know necessarily how to get that information. I certainly was not expecting definitely a staff report for everyone.
Right.
I mean, I know that, there's roof leaks and, I will account, want to be aware of those, but I'm sure there's more than just roof leaks. We only heard about roof leaks and how many there were because M&C asked for additional money, appropriation. Had no idea how bad things were, if you will, without that. That was more of what the intent was there. So I think it could probably be worded better.
Yeah, so if we're made aware of, say, these work orders, it doesn't have to be any kind of report whatsoever, just a copy of the work order, then we get an idea, as Mark was saying, of the volume of things that we should account for in the future because there's a problem. You say 50 a day, 50 plus times a day. That's something that we need to be aware of. If you're having more than 50 emergencies a day, there's a problem. There's a problem from M&C, let's say, asking for appropriations, or we're not doing something that needs to be fixed. We're not addressing a global issue. We wouldn't know until we got asked for more money for roofing, as the one example.
Sure. But they're all budgeted. If I can clarify, so what you're bringing up is a perfect example while this should go back to committee, because agree, the intent makes sense, right? You're asking for notification, but based upon the wording of the policy as written, it states not a staff report, but a written report within 48 hours. Not a change order. Again, no problem providing communication, but this should go back to a committee to evaluate the wording and make some changes as appropriate. So agree with you wholeheartedly. Just it shouldn't be written the way it's written currently.
Yeah, I just didn't see on the left side where the proposed edit where it said
Forgive me. That
report.
was just yes. Forgive me.
It just says notification.
Correct. So that was a summary of my interpretation. So if you turn to page 5 of 14. If you're looking at the first bullet, I'm going to skip down to just below where the red writing is. It says, notwithstanding the foregoing authority, if at all possible, the VMS shall confer immediately with the applicable corporation and attempt to gain prior written approval regarding every such, in this instance, all expenditures, and suspension of service, and in any event shall provide a written report regarding the same within 48 hours of such emergency expenditure. So again, no problem providing information, and we are happy to do so, but just it's the terminology the way it's written, and it was just an unintended consequence of just the wording could be improved a little bit more if that is the intention, and happy to do so.
Yeah, and with in brackets meant I didn't know how to say it. It wasn't meant to be the changes. So, getting it here is to have that start this discussion and figure out what we're going to do. Did you have more you wanted to say at this time before I move on to others?
Yeah,
David and Moon, didn't you had something?
Okay. I'm certainly concerned about the events that originally gave rise. I'm equally as concerned about making major departures rather, from the purchasing policy that we're all using, without fully considering the impact of all of those. And for that reason, I would like to see this go back to committee so we can kick all this around, because I, for one, would like to know more about the financial impact of if we do make these departures from the purchasing policy, because I can see them having a negative financial impact on us if we have to go our own way on the purchasing policy. Thanks.
So just a quick question for Steve before I get to you, Moon. Is there a common purchasing policy followed today?
Yes. So back in 2023, the purchasing task force met on numerous instances. So it's all listed in the staff report in the body. In October, at an all boards meeting, it was brought to all three boards to review. It was adopted by both United and GRF. Third had some additional edits. They were minor in nature, so it didn't cause the staff to deviate. So they're all, in essence, you have the same policy.
Okay. So there's
some minor variances,
okay,
but not causing staff to do anything different across all three.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Thanks. Moon?
Director Yoon, there.
In essence, I like David's proposal. I want to discuss this again, but a couple of things. Money is a great thing, but sometimes a lot of headache. So residents or members entrusting us to use their money correctly and not wasted all that. Okay. So in that sense, if we go nitty-gritty, it's going to take more time and all that, and the efficiency going to go down. You, as a BMS, we like to see the speeding efficiency increased. But money, we have to be careful how to use it, okay? And so transparency and all that, we have to make sure everything is clear. Okay, there's no black hand coming in at some point.
Of course.
We like to cut off or never come in at all. Okay, but when I look at the proposal, look at the number 8. BMS department head making decision at $100,000 or whatever, and you have many conditions in it, but we don't have, as a member or as a board, we don't have any control over department head. They are hired by BMS. They are not listening to us. They don't have no right, no obligation to listen to us. We don't have any control. I don't like to see which we don't have any control. That means a resident or member doesn't have any control at all, and they are using our money. They need to be changed. At least if they do, then let's say CEO have to co-sign it or have to be responsible. At least the CEO, we have some control over. But department head, we don't have any control whatsoever. I don't want them use my money, period.
So just as a clarification, and I respect that comment entirely, but you do have control because you as a board approve a budget for us to work within. So you set the guardrails for us to operate within, and we execute as appropriate, right? So if you say that landscape, for instance, is going to be authorized to spend $100,000, $500,000, whatever that means, we execute upon that. So we don't arbitrarily spend $6 million, right? No, we stick within the guardrails that you have set for us, right? And of course, we have an obligation to the corporation to act on your behalf. So we're going to look for the best price. We're going to monitor the progress of the projects and make certain we're professionals. We want the best for the company, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I said earlier, you have a lot of qualification conditions, so department head can use their money. In this case, it's a business approval, business plan approval, many other things, and they limited the number, let's say 10 grand or something like that. But how you buy it, okay, when you look at the bidding, open bidding, or in this case, maybe not in an open bidding, okay? So we don't know how they are purchasing. We don't have any control over. Let's say, I said many times, let's say the bidders are my brothers, my brother-in-law, and my cousin-in-law. We got 3 biddings, which is actually 1 bidding. I don't like to see that.
Of course not.
So I want to see real open bidding and crystal clear, transparent, everybody understand. Okay, so especially if we give a full right to the department head, which we cannot control whatsoever, I don't like to see that at all. Thank you.
Thanks. Reza?
Yeah, I think, when you hear all the concern, it looked like that it need a little bit more thought. You go into this before we step into it. Because a simple notification I don't see as resolving everything that we're talking about. Because it's after the fact, I did this, so what? I mean, if we're looking for some improvement in the process, at the same time, we should not harm the other side of it, which is productivity, efficiency. So I think we need to put a little bit more thoughts into it before we go forward. The other thing is that the purchasing policy, another type of policy that we need universal. That is, if we just keep segmenting some of these policy here, United different, third different. I mean, that would take a little bit of efficiency out of the system. I think we need to work together on that and put the steps into it that improve things and with minimum harm to the process. That's my point. So I think you need a little bit more thought into it.
Okay, good. Thanks. So I brought up the reason that I brought this up. Okay, again, I was asked to sign a $1 million contract for a vendor. I heard advice and sent back to your team. Who is this vendor? When did the board approve them? Hey, board never did. Hey, I'm not signing this is kind of my response, and I haven't, and it's been a couple of months now. What should I have done differently? What should your team have done differently to better resolve this? I mean, you're kind of saying, hey, if the board wanted to do something, we'd be open to it. No one ever told me. It was just, hey, your policy says this. I can do it. And I said, sorry, I don't feel confident signing this. I don't know who this vendor is. I mean, it could be Moon's cousin. So what might we have done better working collaboratively?
Exactly. So together what we could have possibly done different is if potentially we shared with you that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this specific vendor it's an annual contract, as you'd mentioned. But with regards to bidding, so the way we handle some of our annual contracts is if we have a, how would you describe, maybe a lineup of vendors that can perform the same service, whether it's plumbing, electrical, whatever it may be. So we will send out a pricing sheet to a new vendor and say, what are your prices? It's not necessarily an open bidding process. We're sending it to 10 different vendors. Who's going to give us the best pricing? We'll send it out, in this vendor specifically, we sent out a price sheet. And it came back, and that pricing was consistent with the other lineup that we had. And as long as it was the case, if vendor 1, 2, 3 can't get to the work because of their staffing, we have a fourth one in place that has similar pricing, and we'll execute those contracts. That was the intent. Okay. So we could have provided that information to you at the onset, maybe a little bit of a summary, like an executive summary that we're bringing this to you. Yep. Maybe that would be a little bit helpful to explain it. And again, just to kind of clear the air that one, some of these contracts aren't going out to a bid as long as the pricing is consistent, and that's specific to annual contracts.
Okay, got it. Okay, thanks. Brad, looks like you have a question or comment?
Yeah, actually we had a conversation about this with Stephen at the last M&C meeting as well. And one of the things that we discussed, the company that I'm running now is all government contracts, and there's bid processes with LA County, California DGS, federal government. And we go through gov.com, Planet Bid. There's a lot of vessels for municipalities to go out and request bids on projects. And what I suggested to Stephen was that we look at maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of the smaller type of products or contracts that we need and start to demo that and see what it looks like for Laguna Woods. It may be effective, it may not be effective, it may allow us to open up and get more viable contractors for bids. And it may not. I mean, there's good parts to it and bad parts to it, and you don't always have to take the lowest bidder. You can certainly take, the one that is the lowest, most qualified bidder. But I think we should take that for a test run on a couple smaller things, and then look at revising purchasing a little bit further as we try and demo some of that stuff.
Okay, good, thanks. Another question, Steve, you mentioned that the team put together the current policy. How long did it take to get that process done?
I want to say 3 months.
Okay.
So it could have gone faster, but it hadn't been reviewed since 2017.
Okay.
And the meetings, I want to say we held numerous meetings, and it was a lot of fine tuning, right? So an individual who brought forth a lot of suggestions, he made it known that, hey, this is my list of 30 suggestions, you can take it or leave it. But we went through every single one of them, right, at each instance. And it was always just fine-tuning. Yeah. So it may have taken a little longer than necessary, but again, there wasn't really an urgent need to push through it, so we accommodated all those requests. Okay. So if you were to say today that we would like to have a new policy in place by, say, September, all 3 boards would probably vote to bring a new task force together, because based upon my understanding is as soon as it completed its last task, that committee was dissolved. So I believe either GRF or all 3 boards would vote to bring it back, and then we'd set a timeline to have it completed.
Okay, great, thanks. Any other questions, comments? All right, so we have a motion on the table, which is to vote to approve these changes. Any revision to that motion, Ira? Or not?
Or not, yeah. Well, then I'll move that we...
Nope, sorry, Michaela?
There is just one, we already do have a motion on the table. There is just one member comment.
Member comment, got it.
Yes,
Okay, got
from
it.
Jim Hopkins.
Sure.
Thank you. Without commenting on the individual changes, that task force was probably more than 3 years, number one. It was led by 2 people with probably over 60 years of purchasing experience. And the outcome was, again, all 2 mutuals, as well as GRF said, this is I think third was odd man out at that time for minor reasons. Yeah. But everybody said it's a great policy. It doesn't mean it's perfect. So what I would suggest as a matter of process and procedure is for your finance representative on GRF, bring these changes forward, okay, so that they can be discussed in the impact on all 3 agencies or corporations, as opposed to trying to parcel out, I'll call it a centralized policy. Okay, I can see policy differences when it comes to, say, approval levels, or authorization levels, etc. But when it comes to policy, just like a purchasing policy, just like accounting policy, you don't want accrual accounting over here and cash accounting over here between an organization that shares the accounting department. So I would suggest, without going into the details of the changes, which a couple of them seem very good, by the way, but for me, from my perspective, but I would not go through trying to change it at this level.
Okay. Moon had another comment?
Yeah. To the answering or comment to Jim's comment. Okay. This is United and Third Mutual has a direct connection to the members. So we got a lot of, I don't know, at least I am getting a lot of pressure from the members. They send me email and give me help, and some people are saying, take your picture down. Okay, so many things I'm getting. But fortunately, GRF does not have that kind of pressure. Okay, and thanks God, okay, in a way. So what I'm saying is, I've been asking many statistics, but we never had the statistics. But I'm guessing some of residents have been here a long time when price was low and all that. And then some of them are, one party died, passed away, and single, and they're having very strained financial situation. Each dollar from them is important to me, or important to them. Okay, if we have to make sure we are using right way, and then also transparent, everybody understand, they understand why we're using it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. You've had now some chance to think about it.
Okay, so I want to start out clean. I'm going to withdraw the original
You
motion.
okay with that? Since you
And
seconded it, you all right with that, Reza? You seconded it, one thing? Yeah.
Okay.
Got it, just make sure, just gotta,
So
I understand, just make sure.
I'll propose that we create a subcommittee or task force, you can call it what you will, to identify what changes Third needs and work with staff to try to get those needs taken care of, and hopefully meld that into the current purchasing policy.
Okay. So it sounds like you're suggesting a task force within Third to
It could be within Third.
initially set out our
Since
proposed
it,
changes and then work with staff to.
and that's what I heard
figure
from
out.
Steve, and that's what it appears that the United and GRF are in concert, and we have never been.
Okay.
So I think that we need to define what we need and bring it to them to see if they need it as well. And if they do, then the policy can be changed globally. If not, then we need a subset for our own.
Okay.
All right. That's that.
So there's a motion. We have a second to that one. Reza again. Okay. All right. Any more discussion on that?
I believe Brad has a comment.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, my only comment would be that it might make sense to have finance lead that committee and have a couple representatives from Third, United, and GRF. If we're all involved in that review process up front, I think it's easier to get all three of us aligned and following the same process as we go forward.
Okay, it sounded like what Ira was suggesting was maybe a precursor to that, a determination of what Third's requested
are.
changes were, and then
Bring that
take
forward.
those to the other boards to see how they would feel. David, you had some thoughts?
Yeah, given that the purchasing policy is largely financial, what I would suggest is that we refer this back to our own finance committee for a detailed review so that we can get our thoughts clarified, more concise, what changes do we really need, and explore what impact that those would have before we take them out to the other mutuals. And I would think that the finance committee would want to work with M&C on this and and landscape on this as well.
Okay.
Thanks.
So it sounds like you're taking Ira's suggestion of the task force, but just putting it in a place that we already have, which is the finance committee.
And I'm agreeable to
Okay.
that.
Okay.
And Reza, you're okay with that still?
I keep second.
Okay. Okay. All right. You got that, staff? You figure that one out? Put this back to the finance committee to look at our current policy and determine what changes Third would like to propose to the other boards and staff. Okay. All right. Any further question, comments on that? before we
So
vote?
the original resolution now didn't pass, right?
It's
Okay,
been.
I just
it's
want to make
been-
sure
it's
that,
been
I don't know if
revised.
we voted on it or not.
Okay,
so
yeah,
I
we
just
didn't
want
vote,
to
we
make
just,
sure that-
we
okay.
revised it.
So we have
Before we
revised,
voted.
okay.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, any less comments? So let's vote on that. Again, so we're voting on to whether or not to send our purchasing policy back to the finance committee to review and compile Third's changes. Okay. So it's passed, but now we're just getting the other numbers. So thank you, Steve. for
SK and Brad, can I get your votes?
Brad votes yes.
Thank you.
Did somebody leave?
And I just need SK's vote and Moon's vote.
Moon, did you vote? Yes, yes.
Okay, and just SK.
Okay, SK may have stepped out, so I'm just going to move us along. So we have
Okay.
9 yeses, 0 nos, 0 abstentions. SK stepped out for the moment. Thank you, board. Good discussion. All right, moving on to agenda item 11I. See if we can finish here. Got a few more things. It's for the board to entertain a motion to approve the Executive Hearings Committee charter. This updated charter has been recommended by the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. The charter is being updated to include the addition of member-requested hearings as a simpler alternative to internal dispute resolutions, or IDRs, although IDRs are still fine if requested. And today we'll be voting as to whether or not to accept these changes to the charter. Can I get a motion to approve the updated charter before we discuss it further? David moves. Chris seconds. Sorry, I wasn't sure if your hand was up to write a name down or not. No. David approved. Chris seconds. Any discussion on the updated charter? Yes, Reza?
Yeah, I just want to know what full autonomy, can somebody explain that to me, that what it means, full autonomy? Because now we're adding that kind of.
Should already been.
Yeah,
but
just
fair enough.
part 5, I mean, we go to number 5.
Yes, that's fine. It just means that the committee can make the decision.
Was it
And
different
it
from
doesn't have
past?
to, it doesn't have to go to the board. I mean, and that's what we do today, so.
That's what I'm saying, so there's no changes, right?
No.
Oh, okay, because I thought that, we're trying to introduce changes.
And decisions that the committee makes can still be appealed to the full board.
Oh, of course.
But if they're not appealed, then they don't have to come to the
So
board.
it's not any different than what we're
Right,
doing today?
that's right.
Thanks.
So thanks for the question. Any other questions? Okay, member questions, comments? All right, it's now time to vote. Again, we're voting to whether or not to accept the changes to the Executive Hearing Committee charter. Didn't sleep well, Jim?
Brad votes yes.
Okay, thank you.
And is SK back?
Yes, and he messaged saying he's voting yes.
Okay. All right, so we've got 10 yeses on this, so thank you, board. All right, agenda item 11J is for the board to elect a new treasurer. Our current treasurer, Andy, has requested from the board that he be allowed to step away from the role of treasurer and most committee assignments. So today we need to identify a new treasurer. And we'll start with nominations. Does anyone want to nominate another board member or themselves to be third treasurer?
I would
I
like to
nominate
nominate.
Dave. Oh,
Okay, so Jim nominated Dave. Were you going to nominate somebody else?
Yeah, second.
Oh, second Dave, okay. All right, Dave, do you accept the nomination? Okay, great. Are there any other nominations? Okay, I'm looking for SK and Brad, don't see any. As there are no other nominees, David, congratulations, you are our new third board treasurer. Andy, thank you for your service.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, big shoes to fill, but welcome to the third board. How many months has it been? 2? All right. Thanks for that. And then our last new business item is agenda item 11K. It's for the board to approve updated committee assignments. So these changes are to remove Ira from landscape committee. So Ira is asked to just kind of step away from the landscape committees, both GRF and third. Remove Andy from most committees, and to add David as the chair of the finance committee, who's now the treasurer, and that's usually how that works. Can I get a motion to approve the updated committee assignments? Before we discuss them further, Ira moves, Jim seconds. Any questions, comments? Okay. And I know you'll probably notice Andy's still on the executive committee. It's because that's meeting this afternoon, and I want him to be there.
Just a question for admin purposes. Do we need to go back and reappoint the...
And make a motion on that resolution?
Right.
Okay, sure. I'm going to then start. Chris, lucky you for bringing it up. Can you please, we're going back to, 11J. I missed a step. It's not just as simple as congratulating David as being our new treasurer, but we have a resolution that should be read.
Oh, I'm sure Paul would be happy to read it. No, just kidding. Okay, Resolution 03-24-XX, resolved on June 18th, 2024, pursuant to 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual Bylaws, Article 9, which sets guidelines, excuse me, terms and responsibilities for the election of officers to this corporation. The following persons are hereby elected to the office indicated next to their names to serve: Mark Laws, President; Jim Cook, First Vice President; S.K. Park, Second Vice President; and Chris Prince, Secretary; David Veneman, Treasurer. Resolve further that the following staff person is hereby appointed as ex officio officer of this corporation: Shaban Foster, Vice President ex officio; Carlos Rojas, Assistant Secretary ex officio; Steve Hormuth, Assistant Treasurer ex officio. Resolve further that Resolution 03-22-117, adopted October 5th, 2023, is hereby superseded and canceled. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are directed on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution.
Thanks, Chris. Can I get a motion to approve that resolution as read? Ira moves, Moon seconds. Thanks. Any further discussion on that? Okay. All right. I guess we'll now then vote on that resolution. Thanks, Paul and Chris, for pointing out my mistake.
Brad votes yes.
Omission. Okay.
And
Thank
SK, can I get your vote? And I think we need Andy's vote.
Andy, you're voting on this one? So you can just tell whether you're yes or no.
You can give a thumbs up. Thumbs up. Doesn't work? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So SK stepped away again. 9 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Okay, all right.
Oh, I think SK is giving a thumbs up.
Okay.
Yep, perfect.
Good, great, Tim. Okay. Okay, I think I'm back to 11K. I can tell my board is getting hungry. We still got committee updates to present. I think we've already had a motion to update the committee assignments. Any discussion on the committee assignments? Okay, member comments? Okay, can we vote on whether or not to approve the updated committee assignments?
Brad votes yes.
Thanks, Brad. Go ahead and use your finger there, Andy.
Okay, SK is giving me a thumbs up
Okay.
for this.
Okay.
Perfect.
And this passed 10-0-0. Thanks, you, board. All right, that completes our new business for today. A lot of stuff, but thanks again, board, for helping us get through it fairly quickly. Now we're going to move on to agenda item 12, which is where members of this board share our monthly committee status updates. Starting with our report of the Finance Committee. Andy, I believe you've agreed to do this one last time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Give a go at it. We've got some slides to go along with this. Okay. The first slide talks about the 4-month period ending April 30th. And total revenue for third was approximately $15.8 million against expenses of $13.3 million, resulting in a net revenue of $2.4 million. It looks really good, but like a lot of things, it's not going to last. So the way the budget is set up, the numbers are spread, whereas in actuality, certain expenses occur in the last part of the year. So the $2.4 million looks really good, but again, probably going to go down. But we budgeted tighter this year anyway, so we still are going to be profitable on the bottom line, but not as much as we have been historically. All right, let's move on to slide 2. We have two funds, actually. We have two elements to our results. We have the operating fund and reserve fund. The operating fund shows a deficit of $198,000 for the 4 months. And the table shows how much of our revenue went into operations, with $9.2 million coming in from assessments and roughly $800,000 coming from non-assessment revenue. This is compared to operating expenditures of $10.2 million. This all excludes depreciation, which is just a paper entry. All right, let's go on to slide 3. This next table takes the full income statement and compares these results to budget. We can see that third ended the period better than budget by $117,000 when combining both operating and reserve revenues and expenses. As I said earlier, the operating part of the budget is under a little pressure, and in fact, the $117,000 is the net of two things. On the one hand, you have the deficit of $198,000 from the operating fund. On the other hand, you have roughly $315,000 from the reserve fund, and that's largely due to the fact that investment income, which is very favorable to budget, all goes to the reserve account. Okay, let's go on to slide 4. Highlighting some variances, employee comp and related, favorable $479,000. And this is primarily from the landscape and M&C departments due to open positions with impacted areas including grounds maintenance, irrigation, paint, electrical, and manor alterations. Recruitment is in process to fill open positions. Grounds maintenance contracted shrub bed maintenance to outside vendors for the pruning weeding cycle as they continue to fill open positions. I just want to state here that if we don't have the employee on board and you want a service delivered, then you have to go to outside services or just not deliver. So it's a balancing act, and while we're favorable on employee comp at this time, there's going to be some pressure on outside services, which is the next category I want to talk about. Right now, we have a favorable variance year-to-date of $373,000. And like I said earlier, the way the budget's set up, it's kind of spread out, but in fact, the budget is heavy towards the end of the year. So the prior to paint, landscaping, water lines, copper pipe remediation, and tree landscaping began in June. Water lines copper began in May, and tree maintenance is in progress. The staff is awaiting invoices. So that $373,000 number is illusory. In fact, it's much less, and we have to be very diligent in watching where the outside services are going. Not to say that it's not justified, but it will put pressure on the budget because typically you pay more for outside services than having it done internally, typically. Next, we go on to investment income, which is favorable at $274,000. This has resulted from Treasury bills yielding a higher return than anticipated. The budget had 2.5%, which compared to the prior year budget was 1%, so we stressed the budget more in expectation of higher rates, and we're getting them. We're getting substantially over 5%, which is great, and the Fed just announced they weren't going to touch rates, and that's good news because it looks like they won't touch rates for the end of the year, at least through the election. So we expect that favorable variance to grow, and we're going to need it. Fees and charges to residents are unfavorable by $678,000. Now, this unfavorable variance is due to timing of billing requests for backlogged damage restoration cases. Additionally, current year resident maintenance fees relating to damage restoration cases ended the period unfavorable due to less hearings scheduled through April as the backlog hearings take priority. Now, let me explain on that. It's not for desire, it's a scheduling problem. These cases, because of due process, and everybody is entitled to due process, these cases require executive board to hear them. And the executive board, just like anybody else, has things taking their time away. So it's a real balancing act, and they've done the best they can, and things have happened here and there, as they always do. It's expected that the amount of hearings will be increased for the rest of the year, with the result that we'll come back on budget. But again, this is a category we need to watch because it's dependent on giving due process. You don't give due process, you can't bill. So that's something we should be watching further. All right. Income taxes. Here's an interesting item. It kind of snuck up on us, and it won't again, but it did. Last year we had a lot of investment income because the rates were very favorable to budget. It turns out, though, that investment income is what the IRS would call unrelated income. And when it exceeds a certain threshold, it's subject to taxation. And this was subject to taxation, unfortunately, to the amount of $265,000, which we did not provide for. And that's hitting this period. Now, we're going to have additional tax liability for 2024, and our finance department and VMS is looking at ways to try to offset to some degree. You take unrelated income, you take unrelated expenses, and you put them together if the IRS allows you to. That's how you manage your tax bill, and we're going to be doing some of that, and hopefully this one-time item won't come back to haunt us. All right, let's go on to slide 5. On this slide, we present our non-assessment revenues earned to date by category and comparing the budget and prior year-to-date year-to-date actuals. Our largest revenue-generating categories on April 30th were investment income, resident maintenance fees, which includes the backlogged damage restoration fees, and sales and leasing fees. Non-assessment revenues totaled $1.3 million through the period. We had budgeted more, but like I said, because of scheduling conflicts mainly, we couldn't get the number of due process hearings done to bill these things out. By and large, when people come into these hearings and we present a very detailed reason for them being there, they comply. But many people still sign up for hearings, and we have to do a better job of managing the hearings so we can get more done and come back on budget on this. All right, enough said. The next slide, we present our expenses to date by category and compare them to the current year's budget, prior year's year-to-date actuals. And as typically the case, the largest are employee comp and related, insurance, and outside services. Expenses total $13.3 million through reporting period. Insurance has really grown in the last few years. $8 billion roughly. Things have happened recently on insurance that are very good news for the mutual, and I think you'll be very pleased when you hear those. The next slide covers non-operating fund balance at April 30th, and it's $35.6 million. Year-to-date contributions and interest were $5.7 million, while year-to-date expenditures were $3.1, which is a difference of $2.6 million, and we're growing those reserves, and that's good. Next slide, we compare the non-operating fund balances to historical fund balances for the past 5 years, which has averaged roughly $31.1 million. Third Mutual has been committed to supporting reserve requirements and having more contingency funds for unexpected events. We've got quite a bit of money in a couple funds that could be used for big unanticipated uses. So just know that Third has provided in its reserves money for unexpected things, which always happen. Finally, we're going to look at resale history from 2022 to 2024. Through the 4-month period, resales totaled 105, which is 6 resales higher than the prior year for the same time period. And that just occurred in April. The prior 3 months to April, we were running under last year. So for whatever reason, resales are rebounding, and that's good because we do earn considerable fees from them, and we expect that to bring us closer to budget by year end. The average year-to-date resale price for a Third was $621,000, which is $91,000 higher than the prior year for the same period. I think all of us have heard about, of all things, real estate continuing to go up when the economy isn't really doing that well. Hopefully, we strike a balance here where our homes in the community remain affordable, but that the owners also have a fair return on their investments. The committee originally met on June 4th. The next meeting is going to be on August 8th at 1:30 p.m. in the boardroom, and it's a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I think this is actually August 6th, but that's fine. August 6th is the next Finance Committee meeting. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate that. Next, we have the ACSC. Jim?
Yeah, the committee met on June 10th, 2024. The items that were contained in today's open session, 9D 1 through 3, 11A through C, were what were discussed at that meeting, so no sense in going over it again. We continue to strive to update the standards so that we can make them more clear and also so that they abide with the statutes that are in place at this time. We also are trying to, again, make the time frame where someone will apply for a variance to move forward. We're getting more and more over-the-counter variances that have really accelerated the time frame so that it's easier for people to get variances taken care of that have been done before. There's no sense reinventing the wheel every time we have a variance. If it's a variance that's already been approved and approved possibly several times, it can simply go to over-the-counter, and then it needs to go to the consent calendar for ACSC and consent calendar for the full board. So we continue to do those improvements. Our next meeting will be July 8th, 2024, 1:30 p.m. in the boardroom and as a virtual meeting.
Okay, great. Jim? And Moon, I may have bypassed a question or comment that you might have had for Andy? Sure.
Andy, this is a finance question, not the ACAS. I don't have anything to do. Okay. Can you go back to slide 5? Slide 5? Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have, before that, we have income tax about 265K.
Right.
So when is due to our income tax? Is it April 15 or we have a different due date for income tax?
I can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Just move a little closer.
What I'm saying, regular person like me is about April 15, we have to pay income tax, right? When I have corporation, we have different time. So what is our income tax due to the mutual?
Okay, here's the thing. The IRS is on a pay-as-you-go basis. And that means for individuals and for corporations that you pay quarterly estimated tax if your liability, when all is said and done, if you owe so much, to avoid a penalty, because in effect, you're using IRS money. They require you to make quarterly payments to keep that balance. When you settle up at year end, they don't want you making a big payment because you had the use of that money all year and the IRS didn't, and they need it. The government needs it. Okay.
Well, I know the
Okay,
ES,
I understand.
ES
So,
tax we have to pay.
we got a
over
30%
the
rate
time.
here. We have a 30%.
But when is the last day we have to finish it? The April 15 or October 10, October 15?
It parallels April 5th. There's a series
April
of
15? So this
No,
means
April
this is
15th.
April.
It's just
April 30th finance report. So we are not going to have any more except the ES tax.
No, first of all, what we're going to do for 2024 is we're going to figure out what our net tax liability is. And Steve Hormuth has told me that we have some offsets potentially, whereas last year we didn't have any offsets. And I don't know why that happened, but it did. It kind of caught a lot of us by surprise. When we looked at the audited financials, there was a $200,000 income tax expense on there and hadn't had one for years. So it was a surprise. Well, when you pay it, if you didn't provide for it as a accrual in 2023, and you pay it in 2024, it hits the books in 2000. It's not the right way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be accrued, but again, this was something that happened. In 2024, we should be accruing for this, but we don't know the number to accrue for yet. So when that happens, we'll put that in the income statement as an accrual entry, and then next year when we settle up, we'll offset that accrual. The rate's 30%, so, on, let's say we have $900,000, that's another $270,000 if you don't offset it. So this is what we call tax management. And Steve Hormuth's the one that's doing it. And unfortunately, fortunately, we're getting the investment money. We're getting all this investment money we didn't plan for. However, the IRS has to take its share. So still, 70% of something is better than 100% of nothing. You get what I'm saying? We'll come out ahead on this, just not as much as we thought we would. And yes, we're going to accrue for it, so there won't be any more surprises. And next year when we budget, we'll have to allow for it too. But we don't know what the rates are going to be next year.
Okay. Can you put up the slide 5, or page 5 on there? There is a 5 income category on page 5. Which one we have to pay income tax
Investment income.
Only investment
100%.
income?
That's
Not the sales and the leasing
potentially.
fee and any other, only investment income right now we are paying for tax on it?
Yeah, because we have an offset. When you think about it, investment income, what does it really involve? You go to the place where you buy T-bonds, okay, or T-bills, You put your order in, there isn't much expense involved in buying a T-bill. Whereas for the resale maintenance fees, there's a lot of expense behind it to get that. So what we're showing here on the resident maintenance fees, sale and leasing fees, we're showing one side of it. The cost to do that is buried in the total expense number, which we don't break out. We could, and we've done that in the past, and it's always where we're making more money than we're spending. Get what I'm saying? We're making a profit on it. Investment income is kind of unusual in that there's very little expense to get that income. Just give them the money and you get the income. And bingo, that's when you get hit with the taxes. So tax minimization strategy requires us to find expenses which we can defend to the IRS to offset those. So that's what we're doing right now.
What is our tax rate?
Our history?
What is our tax rate? 10%, 20%,
30%.
What?
30%.
30%.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Lastly, we're going to miss you, Andy.
Oh.
Particularly me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brad, do you have any updates regarding Third Maintenance and Construction Committee?
No, I mean, the only two hot buttons in M&C right now are number one, the epoxy coating project, which is ongoing. We've had some significant increase in costs from our supplier. So we're looking at possibly pausing that program or continuing it for the rest of the year on a limited basis and going back out to bid next year. And then the second one where we feel like we can save some money is on the asphalt replacement. We're looking at possibly just doing some sealing and patching as opposed to complete replacement because we feel like we can save some money there this year and next year without having any impact at all on the residents and using that money in some other areas which are more pressing.
Okay, great, thanks. And do you know off the top of your head when they next meet? Let's see. Maintenance and Construction Committee will next meet on July 1st. Monday, July 1st, 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. Okay, thanks. Next we have the Landscape Committee. Moon, I'm sorry. You need to I'm not expecting questions on the committee stuff, so just say, hey, Mark, I got a question.
Okay. Questions to Brad and the MNC committee. So the epoxy program or that is just stopped for a moment, and then we approved whatever they increased, and then they are starting again. So are they on the same time schedule, or you having different time schedule? Because some of the residents they were scheduled and they stopped, so they asked me when they're going to resume it again.
We have not stopped it. They were scheduled to do 9 buildings this year. We're going to do 7 to help offset the cost increase. But we are prepping to go out for RFP so that we can get at least a look at economics. But I realize it's a fairly important process. I did get some additional information, which I haven't had a chance to share yet. So we were looking at maybe hiring a third party to do camera inspections. What I found out from the current contractor is they do a camera inspection prior to, then after cleaning, and then once it's completed, they also do a camera inspection. Although that third one, I haven't had a chance to talk to Manny yet, but that probably should be from a third party rather than the contractor actually doing the work. But I think it's so important that we can't stop it. I think we need to just go forward with what we're doing, change it as soon as we can. The other thing that SK brought up was looking at a total replacement of piping. I did ask that question, and what they told me was when they went out to bid originally on the epoxy coating, the cost to repipe and the inconvenience to residents, because there'd be a lot of breaking inside the units, that it was A, more cost effective to epoxy coat, and B, easier on residents to be able to do the epoxy coating. But we will look at that again when we take the whole project out to bid. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Moon. All right, next we have the Landscape Committee. Ira has decided to step away from the Landscape Committee for a while, so I chaired the Landscape Committees this past month and plan to do so next month while the board works to identify a replacement chairperson. The Landscape Committee met twice over the month of June 6th and June 17th. During these meetings, we reviewed the key landscaping efforts and projects in detail. There's several new committee members, and we were working to get them up to speed. So Kurt provided an update on the landscape project log, key performance indicators that he keeps track of for the first quarter. We had Matt Davenport from Monarch Environmental come in, and he shared his plans to review the landscape team's processes against industry best practices, and the Monarch Environmental is working to identify possible improvements with our landscaping department with regard to their procedures and policies. The committee discussed the removal of turf in gates 14 and 11 as per the requirements of State Bill AB 1572. We discussed the paint project or renovation effort, prior to paint, some of us call it, which deals with renovating landscaping around buildings that are being painted this year. And we also identified some resident advisors to the Landscape Committee. The committee also discussed landscaping's ticket processes, their organization, how they ensure that they're running as efficiently as possible. And the third committee's Landscape Committee is next going to meet on Thursday, July 11th. Normally they meet on the first Thursday of the month, but since the first Thursday of the month is the 4th of July, their July meeting is postponed 1 week to Thursday, July 11th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. And finally, for third committees, we have the Third Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. This committee last met on Tuesday, May 29th. During that meeting, the committee discussed financial qualifications for purchasing a manor within Third Mutual, rules for board meetings, and executive committee charter that the board already addressed in today's meeting. The committee also has been discussing the potential implications of reducing Third's leasing cap from 30% down to 25%, and what that might mean and the implications for processes and that kind of thing. And we also discussed Third's traffic rules and regulations. This committee will meet next Tuesday, June 25th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. We plan to continue our discussion regarding Third's leasing cap. We also will continue our discussion on traffic rules and regulations. And as we are currently about 28.8% of our manors are leased, so we kind of are getting near to our 30% cap, so we will be reviewing Third's lease eligibility waiting list application procedure. So if we start hitting that 30%, what processes do we need to follow to make sure that we're managing that as effectively as possible? All right, and that's all we have for Third Mutual committees. We'll now move on to agenda item 13, where we'll share our monthly GRF committee status updates, starting with the GRF Community Activities Committee, or CAC. Andy, you have some updates for us?
Okay, that particular committee meeting, I had another commitment, unfortunately, but Reza sat in for me, and Reza has something to say.
Okay, thank you, Andy. The committee met on June 13. There were several items on that. The main one is introduction of clubhouse supervisors. The supervisor of Equestrian Center came and talked about the operation. Clubhouse 2 and 7 supervisor talked about the condition of clubhouse 2 and 7. And the fitness center supervisor also talked about it, which all sounds in line and moving forward. We also has Tom talking about the golf course, that they're getting it ready for the summer usage because of the heat and all of that. They need to get the grass ready. Garden centers, both of them are in the decent condition. Driving range is grass growing and people are happy hitting the balls. And the other discussion was the discontinued use of flatware and plates in a clubhouse rental.
There was a lot of discussion about that. The committee decided to send it back to the CAC for more review before making a decision on that. And also the use of tennis court by Calvary Chapel High School girls tennis team that we couldn't make a decision. It went back to CAC again for more discussion, see if they can let that happen. The next meeting is July 11 at 1:30 p.m. in boardroom.
Thanks, Reza. Thanks for stepping in. Andy, but I'm not letting you get away quite so simply. What's the latest regarding the GRF Finance Committee? Anything? Or is that not, they don't meet till tomorrow, right? GRF Finance Committee? Okay. Hey, you got nothing. I just didn't want to let you go, but oh well. All right. Next, we'll get an update regarding the GRF Disaster Preparedness Task Force. SK, I see that you are showing us your pretty face at this time. Oh, wait.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
Don't be shy.
Okay.
Sorry.
Disaster Preparedness Task Force committee meeting was held on May 9th, May 28th at 9:30 in this boardroom. In that meeting, committee discussed many agenda items and discussed main items are as follows. Radio drill will be held before DPTF committee meeting, and also the Clubhouse 3 training room rent. Ms. Grant Stansel raised some questions related to training room rent. That was some issue that we were facing with the renting policy and the procedure. And also, DPTF training will be in August or October. I don't remember exact date, but staff will notify us. But staff will be involved in DPTF training. Oh, DPTF training in September for all employees. Next, the DPTF meeting will be scheduled on July 30th, 2024. Thank you.
Okay. And while I have you, I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit. You have any update on the village traffic hearings for us?
Yes, I do. Let me dig out a closed traffic hearing meeting was held on May 15th. In the boardroom. In the closed hearing meeting, total of 4 violations were heard, and I reported last month this hearing. 1, abandoned vehicle, no guilty, no fine. And 2, there were 2 notice of violation, the failure to stop. 1 was related to residents who invited his or her contractor, and he failed to stop, and she was appealing that decision. So tomorrow we'll hear the appeal of that decision. And 1 was the speed violation that was over 11 to 15 miles. That was no guilty because of the reason that we did not notify the public about the trial basis that the VMS board decided to do. However, traffic board will be reviewing the appeal of visitors' failure to stop sign. That we do have enough evidence to show that she is responsible for that guilty and fine. Next, the traffic hearing will be tomorrow, 9 a.m. in the boardroom. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, SK. Hope you're feeling better.
I am terrible today.
Okay. Oh, yeah, hope you feel better soon.
Mark,
Yes, Andy, you had a question?
yeah, I have a question for SK. SK,
Yeah.
the Disaster Preparedness Task Force. I heard through one of the clubs that there's a group of retired nurses that are very interested in being involved as volunteers with disaster preparedness.
And the feedback that I got, and I don't have any further details, is that these volunteers were told basically, if you want to meet on this, meet on your own, pay for a room. So there's a bunch of volunteers that are being treated like a regular club. And it seems to me we need to be very supportive of disaster preparedness. Do you know anything about that, this group of
No,
nurses?
it's the first time. I hear from you the first. So please let me.
I'll let you know offline.
Yes.
Okay. All
Let me
right.
have
Thank
a
you.
contact person.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. All right. Brad, do you have any updates regarding the GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee?
No, I do not.
Okay.
There was nothing.
Thanks. And then I have an update on the Information Technology Advisory Committee. This committee, known as ITAC, is overseeing the development and implementation of the new village-wide computer system, Dynamics 365, which is a Microsoft-based, cloud-based application developed to support large organization, is what is being configured and implemented for VMS and the village. The first phase of Dynamics 365 will focus on our financial and key back-end functions and activities, which include several business processes, such as service to cash, which includes accounts receivable, procure to pay, and purchasing, which includes accounts payable, record to report, which is our general ledger, acquisition to dispose, which is our fixed assets, inventory to delivery, which is our warehousing, project inception to completion, which is project accounting. So a lot of functions are being worked on as part of this initial implementation. Excuse me. The first phase is scheduled to go live within the next quarter. End-to-end user acceptance testing is almost complete to ensure that the system is ready for deployment, and included in our testing plans are efforts to test the data conversion and go live activities so that on the weekend that we do go live, it'll run smoothly as possible. The ITAC, which is a closed committee, is scheduled to next meet on Friday, June 28th. And finally, the following GRF committees have not met since the last third board meeting of May 21st, so there are no updates for these. The GRF Finance Committee last met on April 17th and is scheduled to next meet tomorrow, Wednesday, June 19th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Security and Community Access Committee last met on April 24th, and the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, June 26th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Media and Communications Committee last met on April 15th and is scheduled to next meet on Monday, July 15th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Mobility and Vehicles Committee last met on May 15th and is scheduled to next meet on Wednesday, August 7th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Landscape Committee last met on May 8th and is scheduled to next meet on Wednesday, August 14th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Broadband Ad Hoc Committee last met on May 8th and its next meeting is to be announced. And the GRF Space Planning Ad Hoc Committee last met on May 11th, or I think May 11th, maybe May 1st. First?
Yes.
Okay, May 1st, and his next meeting is to be announced. So thank you. That concludes our committee reports. We're now at agenda item 14, which is for the board to note of any items they would like to be discussed in a future board meeting. So far on our list, we have 6 items that today we put onto 28-day member review and comment, which are revision of standard 6 for block walls, revision of standard 41 for solar panels for one-story building, third's 2025 collection and lien enforcement policy, third's passive business policy and application, third's rules for board meetings, and third's financial qualifications for purchasing, and third mutual. Are there any other items anyone would like to add to be considered for a future agenda item at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll consider none. We always have our agenda prep meeting, which is next scheduled for July 5th, Friday, July 5th, where we can add items that we don't have in mind at this time. And we're on to our next to last, or actually our last agenda item, director's comments. David, do you have any final comments?
I would like to thank Treasurer Ginocchio for his service to the board.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Moon? Okay, nothing? Ira? Good, Jim? Done? Chris? None. Okay, Andy?
As this is my last full board meeting, I'd like to thank everyone here for giving me the opportunity to learn more. You know, I'm a data hog in a sense, and boy, did I learn a lot of things on this board. And hopefully, that'll help me out in some way going forward. Know full well that I am fully supportive of what this board is doing. We need more of it. So thanks for allowing me to serve. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Marissa, any final comments?
Just thank you, Andy. You know, we're all learning, so that's great.
All right. Okay.
I hope you do well.
Yeah. Okay. Brad, do you have any final comments you'd like to share?
No, my only comment is we will miss Andy's financial acumen, absolutely. And I appreciate getting a chance to know him and work with him on this board. And I'm sure that David will step up and do a fantastic job as well. Thank you.
Good, thanks. And SK, any final comments from you?
No, thank you, Andy. See you.
Right. So it's now 12:14 according to the clock on the wall. The business of our open meeting has now been completed. And at this time, the monthly board meeting will recess for 15 minutes. And then the executive committee will reconvene to executive session. Thanks to those of you who participated, and thanks to everyone for listening.